Welcome everyone. My name's Ardyce Taylor and I'm the head of performance marketing over here at Filevine. Today we're going to talk about the mastering the art of digital marketing for your law firm. This is the final installment of our 4-part webinar series called The Art of Efficiency. So today we'll do some introductions and dive right into the topics with our panel of experts that's online with us here today. We'll also save some time at the end for some Q&A, so please feel free to use the chat box throughout our discussion today. You can type in your questions there and we'll get as many of them answered as possible. Following this webinar, we'll be sending everyone an optional state of law firm marketing survey. Feel free to fill it out if you want. You can request a copy of the results when we have them for your own education or curiosity, or you can ignore it completely. Before we get started, we have a quick little poll. It's just one question. So I'll pop that up for you. And let's get started with introductions. Joining us today, we have Tyson Mutrux, Jim Hacking, and Becky Zobul. Tyson, would you like to start us off with a little bit about yourself?
Sure. My name is Tyson Mutrux. I am a personal injury lawyer with offices in St. Louis and Columbia, Missouri, and I am the co-host of the Maximum Lawyer podcast with my buddy Jim Hacking, who is also on this webinar.
All right, Jim.
Hi, my name is Jim Hacking. I'm really happy to be here. I love Filevine and I love talking about marketing. And I am one of the owners of an immigration law firm with offices in St. Louis, San Diego, and Washington, D.C.
Excellent. And Becky.
Hi, my name is Becky Zobul, and I'm our Senior Accounts Manager over at LeFluer Marketing. So I've been in marketing for about 15 years, both in-house and on the agency side. I've been with LeFluer for 4 years, and I oversee our client accounts and strategy, our business development, and our marketing initiatives. So all things marketing.
Great. Well, we're so glad you guys are all here. I've gone ahead and ended the poll. We'll share the results here. It looks like we have about 30% of our audience is new to digital marketing. 2/3 of the audience has done a little bit. And we've got 2 experts in the house. So if that can kind of help guide how we frame our discussion today, that would be great. So let's start. So we first want to kind of talk about marketing channels. And when I say marketing channels, I don't mean different TV channels. I'd like to ask the panel here today, what are sort of the must-have marketing tactics you use and what are the nice-to-have marketing tactics that you use? Becky, would you like to start?
Sure. I have sort of a general take on that, is that the different channels have different purposes and you would use them for different goals. So some of them would be used for branding pieces, like people might use a billboard for branding or something like that. And then some are for converting and nurturing leads. So it really depends on whether you have a long-term goal or a short-term goal, and then you can identify what that mix is. And in the digital space where I spend most of my time, those can change. So those are like different levers that you can pull and push, and you can be always looking at analytics to see what's working. So I think understanding that there is a mix and that there is a time and a place for each of the different channels is important, and looking at your audiences. So one firm might have different target audiences and they use different channels. So understanding what that mix is. And I'd love to hear, what Tyson and Jim have to say.
Yeah.
Jimmy, I'll let you go first, bud.
Well, so I've become convinced that the ears are the most important thing. It took me a long time to come to that conclusion, but long form content, whether it be video or audio, that hearing people's voice over and over in your head when you're cutting the grass, when you're driving to work, it builds a loyalty and a connection that nothing else can, not even the written word. I'm a huge proponent of email marketing, so I don't want to leave that to the side. Love email marketing, but I've really become convinced over time that that deep connection that people have is mostly a result of hearing from people over and over and over, because your true personality might not come out in one video or one podcast, but over a year, that's really something. And also the other thing with with video and with audio, if you have plenty of content, we live in a binge society where people want to binge watch, you know, Money Heist or any other show, and that's how they're used to consuming audio. So when people are thinking about hiring you, if they can go and listen to you talk for a while, there's no better way to build a connection.
Jim, it's funny. I did not even have like listening, like podcasting on my list, but I just added to like the nice to have list because I totally agree with you. That's why we have a firm podcast. That's why you and I have a podcast. But I'm looking at channels. I'm looking at like the tabs. Like I agree with you, Jim, but I also think like those relationships really matter. So whether you do those digitally, and I know we're mostly talking about digital marketing, but like those in person, like one-to-ones, those are fairly priceless. Right? Now, those are more difficult to foster. You can't do those from the comfort of your office. You actually have to go out and have coffees and lunches with people. But those are really powerful. So our referrals from other attorneys and from professional relationships are really important. But when we're talking about digital though, YouTube, I think you're right, Jim. I think those videos, the video and audio, you can't go without it. LinkedIn is extremely important when it comes to those professional relationships. But Facebook for us is really important. And you talked about your email newsletter. Like that's our version of our email newsletter. We constantly push out information on that on a daily basis. I think today was like National Walk Around Day or something like that. So we have like pictures of people in the firm like walking around. Like that's really powerful for us.
Yeah, I think you guys hit on all stages of the funnel, and that's really key. And Jim, like you mentioned with video, we find those client testimonial videos to be very important to help convert people. One thing that's important to think about on the video side is YouTube is becoming the second most popular search engine. So people are going to Google to look for something, and then they're going to YouTube to look for something too. So not only for you to produce video content, but if you want to be doing ads or anything like that, on video as well. And the other stat about video is that a lot of people are watching video without the audio on. So it's funny that you said about hearing you, because a lot of people are watching video with no sound. So making sure that no matter what funnel and what tactic you're doing, you need to be optimizing it as best you can. So can you have a transcript online of that video? Like you said, you're using newsletter content on your social channels. It's not you do it in one place and you leave it there. You can cross a lot of channels with your efforts.
Thank you guys. So we talked about, let's see, YouTube, Facebook, email marketing. What about things like websites, apps? Are those important at all for what you guys do?
That's funny. I mean, I think we kind of ignore our websites when we're talking about this stuff a little bit. Like they're absolutely important. Like they're absolutely crucial. I mean, you can't live without it. So it is one of those must-haves, I guess. But and I do think of them as a channel, I guess, a marketing channel. But I think it is kind of those things you just sort of it's so important. You kind of put it over here, and you know it's important, but you don't really talk about it as much. But yeah, I mean, it's absolutely important. Apps, I don't really care about. I know whenever I hire someone, I don't want to download a new damn app every time I hire somebody. And I don't think our clients do either, but maybe they do. But I'd say apps to me, not that important. Website, absolutely important.
I think it's important to take a step back too, that you need to think about your voice. Like what is your voice in your communications? You don't want to be sending out boring content. Nobody cares about a case that you won unless it's like a human interest story. I think it's really important, whatever channels you're doing, that you have a voice and that you know what that voice is. So if you're working with an outside marketer or if you're doing it yourself, it's important to say things that are important that people care about. If it's just more noise, there's so much noise right now that if you're just saying things that sound like everybody else, and if you're afraid to make anybody mad, or if you're trying to take any kind of case, so you just want to be as milquetoast as possible, the content, it doesn't matter if it's your website or an email newsletter or whatever, nobody's going to care.
Right. Understanding your audiences and what their pain points are and what they're looking for. And like I said, one firm might have several target audiences. Some might come to you because they're, researching and they're that research archetype. And so you want to give them as much information as you can. And somebody might come to you because you seem like that human that cares, and that's why they're coming to you. So understanding what their pain points are and what they're looking for and how can you communicate that out during your different touch points.
Yeah, and I
So
think
Becky,
it's
I want
really
to ask
important.
you,
Oh, sorry, Tyson.
sorry, Jim, real quick. Like, so I'm just because what this relates to what you're talking about, Jim. Like, I cannot stand the chest beating marketing. It's obnoxious. I don't think it works. But I'm just curious what you think, Becky. Like, I thought I said your name wrong, Becky. Make sure I got it right. But what's your thought on that, Becky? Because like the chest beating to me is obnoxious. But I just want to make sure
Yes.
like I'm not wrong on this.
No. And a lot of our clients don't lean that way. But again, like Jim said, I mean, we put a tremendous amount of effort into understanding our client's voice and making sure that, they're speaking authentically and they're approachable and human. Like people are humans on the other side of that computer looking for you. And so they want to find one when they find you. They don't want, the chest beating or this, they want to find a human that they can empathize with, that can understand what they're going through, and they're going to be a lot more likely to hire you.
I definitely think the chest beating is for the birds. I don't think anyone should do that. But I do want to say one thing. I think that you need to think about building a tribe, and it could be a tribe of 100 people. And in order to build a tribe, you need to be willing to make some people mad, to make some people not like you. So for me, I decided, being an immigration lawyer, that there are probably 40% of Americans who hate what I do, who hate what I stand for. And I was willing to completely ignore them, if not antagonize them, so that the other 40%, because I think 20% are sort of in the middle, the other ones love me. And because I'm willing to like stick it in the eye of the people that don't like immigration, I think my credibility goes way up with the people that I'm trying to attract. Those other 40%, they're never going to hire me, right? So I really like to have a boogeyman or a boogie woman to market against. So for forever, it was USCIS, this big bureaucracy that everybody hates to deal with. And then, of course, we had a president who made anti-immigrant sentiment a big part of his presidency. I couldn't have imagined a boogeyman to market against bigger than him. So to have that messaging that's consistent with what you believe and that's going to appeal to your clientele, I think is really, really important.
And at the end of the day, you're being authentic.
Yeah, and it's so different than like, I just settled a case for $1 billion today, and that's like, we did such an amazing, like, no, like, come on, that's the bragging category. It's whenever you're like showing the fight, like people care about the fight. Pull the curtain back, and they want to hear about that, but they don't want to hear about you bragging about how much money you just made.
Absolutely right. Thank you guys for that. For clarity, yes, chest beating means bragging. I saw that question come up, and thank you, Tyson, for answering that. But if anyone else is confused, yeah, we're talking about like the gorilla beating their chest, establishing dominance. Okay, so those are kind of the marketing channels we're talking about. When you're determining if it's a must-have or a nice-to-have, what helps kind of guide you into that? Is it, the money you're making or the engagement you're getting, or what are you kind of looking at to determine, this is a channel I absolutely need to use, and this channel is maybe, lower on the priority list?
I think it's important. I'll just jump in real quick. I think it's important to realize you can only do so much. You can definitely repurpose your content, and you should. If you make a long post, you should post it in whatever place you want and as many places as you want, as long as you're not hurting your SEO. But you can't do everything. You can't be everywhere. And I think it's important to focus on one channel. So for me, I picked YouTube a long time ago, and now I have other secondary things that I'm doing. But I think you really have to master one channel, be an important voice within that channel, and then go to the other one. I think one problem is that people don't pick a consistent strategy and stick with it. They just bounce from shiny object to shiny object.
I think that's really easy to do too in digital is, you can say, oh, I could do a little spend here or a little bit here, but really understanding what's effective and what's working. And you're probably going to hear me talk about data and results many times throughout the course of this discussion, but ultimately that's how you can make decisions. So where are you reaching people, and what kind of click-through rate and conversions are you getting on these different platforms? And that can really inform the decisions that you're making. So.
Yeah, both of those are great points. I mean, really, it breaks down for me. It's as simple as this, because Jim is absolutely right, and so is Becky. It comes down to how much money are you spending, how many leads are you getting, and how many conversions are you getting. And if those don't they don't add up, they don't match up, then stop doing them. But like what you can't do, like what Jim was talking about, like don't say I'm gonna dabble in TikTok and I'm gonna try it for a month and it doesn't work and just abandon it. That's not how marketing strategies work. I mean, these things take months, if not years. An effective SEO strategy takes several years to implement. So don't say, oh, I tried SEO for 6 months, it didn't work. It's not how SEO works. So you got to know how it works. You got to understand that, and then implement your plan. Stick to it.
Absolutely. Thanks for calling out kind of the timeline on that kind of thing. I think a lot of people go and try something and it takes a week and nothing happens. And, we just give up because there's other things to do, right? We get really busy and we just kind of forget about it. So that brings me kind of to another point. So when you get really busy, does it make sense to hire people to do this for you, or would you recommend outsourcing to an agency? And what kind of call outs would you have for people considering an agency?
My initial thought on that is you should consider hiring an agency probably sooner than you think. Don't wait until things are tanking to say, now it's time to wake up and figure out what our plan is. So we have a lot of people reach out to us when they've hit a wall, both internally or they're using an agency and they're not seeing results. And that, like I said, that can be stagnant results. They're not seeing growth organically. They're having paid campaigns that aren't converting. And some firms have great capabilities in-house. Maybe they have a really strong content team or they have a really strong social team. So you can excel in what you have internally and then say, what channels do I need to nurture and where can I hire to have that help?
Jim, I'll jump in on this one. So I mean, we have a mix, so we don't do our SEO, we have Blue Shark that does that, but we do all of our social and all of our AdWords in house, and we really like doing that. I don't know about the Morgans of the world. I don't know if they have these in-house companies or if they outsource it, but I don't think it really matters, honestly. As long as the marketing team, that digital marketing agency understands your messaging, then great, that's fine. You can use them, you can outsource all of it. Where the problem comes in is if they don't understand it, they don't speak in your voice. Like Jim has a very, very specific voice, and he has trained people in his office that write his newsletters that sound just like him. And it's really interesting because it sounds just like him. But if your marketing agency doesn't do that, then it's not the right marketing agency. And you either need to bring it in-house or you need to hire a different agency.
I recognize that I'm weird. Like I would rather do marketing than legal work, right? So I know that I probably spend more time than the average lawyer on marketing, but I love it. And I love it because I want to study it. I want to learn, I want to get better. I did my own YouTube videos for like 3 years. And there were 2 times where I went for a full year and I did a video every single day. It would be the first thing I did, 7 minutes in the morning. I would upload it. It would get edited in Pakistan and put on my channel. And I did put my head down without thinking about who's watching. But then you start to get that phone call. You get someone that walks into your office and they see you standing there and they've been watching you on TV. They think you're a TV star. It's unbelievable. So I think it's really important to do some of it yourself at the beginning so that you at least understand the channel. I think lawyers are easy marks because they're busy, because they're distracted, because they're thinking about their cases. They have cash coming in. So you really need to make sure that you understand what it is that you're doing, what you're spending your money on, where it's going, and whether it's working or not. You really, before you go into any channel, I think you really need to understand it. And I love do it yourself. I understand that can not work for everybody. I also think getting an expert to help you is important. So I've had my whole team telling me for the last 3 or 4 months that I needed to get some help with TikTok. So I was like, oh, TikTok. Okay. Well, my daughter's 12 and she spends all of her time on TikTok. So I said to her, Noor, here's the deal. If you get me 1,000 subscribers, I'll give you $100. And we had 2 videos that went viral, and so far I've paid her $1,500. We're up to 15,000 subscribers, and she's a boss. She yells at me every day when I get home. I have to do it. I go, Nora, I'm tired. I don't want to make another TikTok. No, you have to do it because she wants to get paid. So accountability helps too, especially if it's a 12-year-old who wants to make that money.
I love that story. I'm going to have our social team start following your daughter on social.
It sounds like Jim's daughters for hire.
Yeah, you mentioned doing it yourself for a while, so you understand the channels. I think understanding the importance of it too. We have some clients that they understand the importance, and so when we come to them with ideas or research, they're like, "Yes, I'm invested. I'm all in." And then other clients that are like, "Sure, whatever you say." And I think that relationship where you understand the importance of it, and we don't have to convince you why you need to have a website that's optimized for conversions and things like that, can go a lot further. There's a lot more opportunity to be successful there.
It looks like in the chat, Annalisa has pinned some TikToks for later. If you guys want to see those, we might put those links in a follow-up email to you as well, so we don't take your time away from the webinar. Becky, another question kind of for you on the agency side. Do you have any tips on how people can better communicate with their marketing agencies, like kind of getting around the jargon from both industries, and how that relationship can just really be set up for success?
Yeah, absolutely. We preach transparency day in and day out. So that applies to both the client and the agency. If you don't, like you said, if you don't understand that jargon or the metrics that your agency is telling you about, ask them why it's important. So not just don't tell me what the click-through rate is, but what does that mean? And how should I change my campaign so that I can see better conversions and things like that? So if you have questions, like understanding why these are important can really help to drive at some of those things. So just keeping that two-way communication, like I said, you want to make sure that you're telling your agency just as much as you would tell an in-house person, so that they can be that extension of your marketing team.
Hey, Becky, I'm just curious, like, so it's so frustrating whenever you meet with someone and they're like, we've got this amazing marketing thing, like whatever it is, I'm not going to name any companies, and they're like, but they won't show you any data. Like they won't show you anything to support that. So how would you deal with a company like that?
I probably wouldn't work with one, especially in digital. Like data is how you're going to make informed decisions. So we report on all of the things that we do. We show the metrics. We want to show what's working and what's not working so that we can make better decisions. That holds us accountable. That helps us grow your business, which in turn grows our business. So I think that's just part of being a transparent and good partner. But yeah, you should own all of your accounts. You should own your Google Ads account, your Facebook account, all of those things. They shouldn't be set up through an agency that you don't have access to. You should own all of those things. And you should be able to poke around and ask questions and see the data on a regular basis. You should be presented with, here is how things are going, because it's your money that you're investing in your business.
Yeah, for sure. And things change over time. So you gotta always make sure that you keep up with it. And I know it's easy to get distracted, but I think most people need to have someone in the office who's paying attention to marketing, because it can't just be you. You can't do everything. We talk about it all the time on the podcast. You got to have someone in there who's responsible for working with vendors and stuff. And I think you're right. I love the SEO experts who come in and say, Jim, we're going to get you on page 1 of Google for this really sort of, it's a search term that sounds pretty good, like immigration attorney at the intersection of Clayton and Manchester. Like, we're going to get you number 1 on that, like something really like nobody's ever going to do.
But what does being number 1 on Google mean if the right person is not clicking on that and contacting you? So that's the thing too, is we're looking at those search terms. We don't want you to be number 1 for what's the top dog that's likely to bite me if the people searching for that are 5th graders doing a report on dog bites. Like, you want it to be the person that is likely to convert. And so thinking of that whole user journey and, what does that mean, and making sure that it's the right fit.
Well, and that's a really good point. And I also thought that what you were going to say is, what's good about doing all this marketing if there isn't a system for receiving the leads and converting them into cases or not? So many people, they spend all this money at the top of the funnel, but they don't look at all the other stages where people are falling out of that funnel and they're losing all that money.
Yeah, absolutely. That's where I think that goes back to the channels and making sure that you're doing stuff all along the line. So that email marketing to nurture people that have filled out a form or downloaded some type of asset from your site, putting them in your newsletter list so that they hear from you once a month and they know who you are and you're staying top of mind. All of those things have a place with your clients. They shouldn't just hear from you one time or just see a billboard or Google you one time and see you. It should be, many touch points.
Yeah, and most people, I know in like the criminal aspect or personal injury, that people are often hot and bothered and want to hire right then. But there are a lot of people that don't decide right away. And if you don't have a CRM like Pipedrive or Lead Docket or something to maintain that contact and to keep track of the lead, then you're really just doing yourself a disservice and you're throwing money out the window.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
no
I
one
had
else is
somebody.
doing it. Yeah, well,
Yeah.
and no one else is doing it. So it's like shooting fish in a barrel after that point. Like, you've got them in your pipeline. No one else is following up with them. You start just picking them off one by one. You can make so much more money.
Mm-hmm. I had somebody ask me, like, what is the best CRM that you would recommend? And I was like, honestly, it's whatever one you're going to get in there and use, because it's only going to be as powerful as the information that you're putting into it. So if you're not going to use the system for whatever reason, it doesn't matter if it's the number one recommended thing. You want to make sure that you're using it to your benefit and to help move your business forward.
That's absolutely right. So we're talking a lot about kind of using data to make the right decisions. Within this framework of different marketing channels, what metrics are you looking at for each of these channels to kind of say, hey, this was successful or this one wasn't?
That's a big question. I think it's tying all the pieces together. So you can look at your Google Analytics in a vacuum, but how does that tie into all of the other things that you're doing? So understanding search intent and how people are getting to your website and what they're doing on your website is all very important. But looking at other metrics, so if you're looking at your newsletter list, what are people clicking on in your newsletter? Then do they go to your site and spend time at your site and fill out a form? So they're all leading to another thing. Jim was mentioning the podcast, and that's something that we do ourselves. And I don't know that we have a huge listenership, but it's making sure that the right people hear it. So if we have somebody, like Jim mentioned, that's checking us out, interested, and they listen to an episode of the podcast, and then they're like, okay, they know what they're talking about, I'm ready to make the call, then it was the right thing to do. So there's a lot of data to pull from, but you've got to be looking at the right data too.
Yeah, I think you're so right, because you can look at all these different channels and look at them a variety of different ways. But I mean, I'm just going to come back to, it really comes down to how much money you're spending, how many leads are you getting, and how many conversions. You could get 500,000 downloads on your podcast every single month, but if you're not getting any leads or any cases from it, it makes no sense to do it. It just doesn't. So it comes down to money, leads, and conversions, and it's that simple.
And I think once you get that conversion, whether that's a new client or whatever that you're looking at there, track that journey backwards. Are they opening emails? Did they fill out a form on your site? Did they listen to a podcast? And then you can start to map out what your typical customer journey is, and you can see what those touch points are. Are they always the same? Where can you tighten that up so that you can be more efficient in what you're doing?
And I went to a conference probably 8 years ago, and someone was presenting on what I'm about to say, and I thought it was magic or magical that they know like all the stages of the funnel. They know where people drop out, and they can tell, like at our firm, we have a lead comes in, they go into our CRM, we get a ton of leads. In immigration, you get a lot of calls from people who don't necessarily have a case that we want to handle. So we have a lot of people that sort of fall out during the early stages. Then they get to talk to a leads person. If the leads person decides that this is the kind of case that we could handle, and the leads person tells them the price, then they get to talk to a lawyer. And so at each stage, we're tracking what's going on at each stage. Well, we figured out a couple of weeks ago that our total number of signups were low. And we figured out that 2 weeks earlier, all the attorneys had been busy. Most of the attorneys have been busy, and they'd been dodging my leads team. And so they didn't pick up as many calls. And so we didn't sign up as many cases 2 weeks later. So you can actually get to that degree of sophistication where I know now 3 weeks ahead of time when we're going to have a lower week than when we don't. So then you can swing into action. And I I called an all hands on deck meeting and said, lawyers, you better not be hiding from the leads team, because you're going to get in trouble.
And that has nothing to do with your digital marketing efforts. That's an internal operations problem that you have to solve. And we've seen that too. And I think that's where that communication with your agency or your in-house team is very important, because we had a client where we saw their intake numbers were dropping, and we were talking through with them, and one of their intake people left, and they were the one that had the best rate at converting people. And so just asking the questions and talking through, what's your internal process? When somebody calls you, then what happens? What happens when they call you after hours? And just making sure that there is a plan in place for all of those things.
Yeah, because you're spending all this money to make the phone ring. And if you figure out, like, if you figure out how many cases you sign up versus how much you're spending, then you have that metric. But if you're not tracking, I mean, if you go back and track that, you're going to start crying, because you're going to realize about all these leads that fell out of your funnel, all this wasted money, that not only were you wasting your own money, you were missing out on the money that you would have made on the case.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. I'm just going to do a quick reminder for any of our attendees who are joining late. This is the Art of Efficiency webinar, Mastering Digital Law Firm Marketing. And we're here with Becky Zobul, Tyson Mutrux, and Jim Hacking. We're going to pivot to Google My Business because there was a lot of interest in that. I know a lot of people have a conflicted relationship. They know it's necessary, but it's kind of a heavy lift. What are you guys' number one tips for using or starting or building out your Google My Business?
I personally love Google My Business. I think it's fantastic, and I don't know if it's a big thing for Jim. I'm sure Becky deals with a bunch, but like it's great for us. And I mean, it really starts at getting the Google reviews. You got to have the Google reviews for Google My Business to be really, really effective. I mean, you don't have to, but I mean, it definitely makes a huge difference if you got a lot more Google reviews than your competitors. But engage or posting regularly, like we post every single day. It's really, really important. So every single day, having your entire profile filled out. I mean, that's really, really important. There's like, and there are, if you've got it set up, it opens up other features too. Like you get other features once you get a certain number of Google reviews, and they've sort of gamified it a little bit. There's other things that you can do to make it stand out a little bit more. But then also being ready to engage. Like I was actually, we had a chat come up, and I don't normally do these, but this morning one came up, and it was about a dog bite, so it's funny that you mentioned that, Becky, about dog bites. But it was about a dog bite, and we got this case because we were ready to engage right away. If you're not ready to engage right away, then there's no point in you doing it. So those are my tips.
I think you hit a lot of that. I was going to say, treat it like any other social media channel. So you want to be posting on it regularly. If you have images to post there, make sure they're good quality. And then responding to reviews that are left. So the reviews aren't, you responding is not necessarily for the person that left the review. It is for everybody else that is looking at your reviews. So making sure that you're active there.
People think that marketing is this big magical thing that happens somewhere, that there are these experts, but you can really think about your own experience when you go to, let's say you want to pick a new doctor or a new car, or you want to go on vacation, you're going to hop on TripAdvisor. So the idea that people are going to look at your website, and that if you have 80 positive 5-star reviews and the person down the street has 3, that's going to go a long way to help people make a decision. Google My Business is really good for helping people make the right decision. And if you put some effort into it, those reviews are golden. So every time, there's always a moment in a case, if you've done the job well and the client's satisfied, there's always that moment. They're picking up their settlement check, they're picking up their green card, they're getting sworn as a U.S. citizen, they're getting out of jail. That's when you want to get that Google review, and it stacks up. All the things that we're talking about, whether it's YouTube, everything else, it's that consistency. You have to make it part of your system, that when a case is over, that you figure out a way to get them to leave you a Google review. And you have to be relentless, and you have to be consistent. If you're not, none of these channels are going to work. But I love Google My Business too. I agree with Tyson. We have an office in San Diego, we have 2 in St. Louis and 1 in DC, and we've optimized all of them, and we've gotten reviews on all of them. And it makes a huge, huge difference.
Do you guys mind sharing a few ideas on how to get those Google reviews?
You have to ask for them. It is like, you can't, like Jim's talking about, like, it's not magic, right? It's nothing magic. Like, you have to build that system. Like, so we have these regular check-in with clients. Like, so at the beginning of the case, throughout the case, at the end of the case, and we just call them check-ins. Like, that's, hey, we're just checking in on you. And one of the questions is, hey, so have we done enough at this point to earn a 5-star review? And if they say yes, then guess what we do? We send them a link. We ask them for a 5-star review. If they say no, we'll say, okay, we'll keep working hard for your case, and we'll ask them again the next time. You got to add them repeatedly, and you got to remind them repeatedly, because I think we've all been in that situation where, like, Mrs. Jones says she's going to give you a review, and then weeks later she still hasn't done it. Well, keep asking. Like Jim said, you got to be relentless about it. You really do. I mean, you're fighting against these other law firms to win. You want to win. Get the damn reviews.
And if there's a way that you can make it easier for them, so the way that they're likely going to do it is from their phone. So don't like put up a billboard that says, give us a Google review, and then they have to see that and go on their phone. If you have a QR code that you can scan, if you have a button you can put in your newsletter that says, click here. If there's, ways that you can stay in front of them on the device that they will leave you the review, you are more likely to get them. If you can do a text campaign or something like that around it, any of those touch points are going to be a lot more effective.
Our friend John Fisher is a very successful attorney up in New York, and he challenged Tyson and I, a bunch of other people, to see who could get to 100 reviews first. And I don't think there was a deadline, but someone was getting close to 100. And I said, Tyson, watch this. I'm going to win this thing. And I only had 20. I said, watch this. This was on a Friday. So I sent an email to my whole list, and I said, dear Becky, I hope you're doing well. I'm in this contest with these other lawyers. Could you help me out? Here's a link. Could you leave me a review? And I got 85 reviews like in 48 hours. And
that's hilarious.
I smoked everybody. So my advice is find another lawyer, maybe in another town, and start a contest between the two of you. Tell your list, hey, we need to win this thing. I'm going to lose a bet, or I'm going to have to run down the street in my underwear, whatever it is, and then get people invested in it. And if you make it fun for them and they think they're helping you, it goes a long way. It's not so transactional.
Mm-hmm. Or they think like, is that really going to help them? Like, sure, you have positive reviews. What's one more? That's really funny.
Thank you guys for that. So not all reviews happen to be positive. Do you have any best practices you can share with handling the negative reviews?
We talk about this a lot in Maximum Lawyer. I think about once a week, somebody goes, oh, it finally happened. I got my first 1-star review. What should I do? And there's a lot of good advice in the group. And man, sometimes I get so mad. I don't want to say jack squat to that person. I know they're a liar. I know that the things that they said about me are fake, and I just want to go punch them in the face. Well, obviously we can't do that, and we can't say anything, negative about them, about their case, or anything confidential. So it's really a trick bag. So, I mean, number one is see if there's a way that you can challenge it. I've had people say they're going to beat me up in a Google review, or, things suggesting violence or saying things that aren't true, that are facially untrue. You can challenge them with Google. And now what I like to do is I would say, hey, everybody in my tribe, look at this asshole. Sorry, I probably shouldn't cuss. Look at this guy. He's been saying bad things about me. Why don't you guys can you guys help me out here? I need to bury this review. So I get 20 good reviews, then I go ask Google to remove it. And so that way you get the positive of the 20, and the people, like I said, on our list, they really like me. So they're happy to help, and they don't even take into account what this person's saying. If you can't do that, you can always apologize or talk to the person and see if you can make them happy. You'd be surprised how many times a phone call will get them to, on their own, take the negative review down. Again, I would try to get the positive reviews, as long as it's not too bad. I try to get the positive reviews on top of it before I get it withdrawn. But being a human being and actually calling and apologize if you didn't make a mistake, you can actually probably learn something about your firm. Maybe you didn't do something right. So there might be a kernel of truth in what they say. And then there's some people that just, you look at their reviews and they have 12 Google reviews on 12 different companies, and every one of them's a 1-star. So I might try to point that out or something in the review. I think responding is important. I would say take your time in responding. You generally won't respond on the same day, just because I need to cool down.
Mm-hmm. I would say responding is important. I might refute the pointing out that they are a negative person that gives everybody bad reviews, because like I said, you responding to that review is for the next people that are looking at your reviews and your comments. So you don't want to make yourself look bad or paint yourself in that light. If you can just say, I'm sorry that things went this way and we wish you the best, or, like you said, you don't want to reveal any information that's confidential, but just acknowledging their review if you can't get them to take it down or anything like that. Yeah, but layering those positive reviews on top, it's really a numbers game at that point.
Yeah, I think the advice that both of you gave are great. I put just respond, but be respectful. Luckily, I've not gone through. I'm really hesitant to even say this. I'm knock on wood. I've not really had to really go through this. I had a couple people put 1-star reviews that I don't even know who they are. I think it was a spam. They got removed. But I think the effective thing that I've seen in Max Law were members actually calling the clients and saying, I am really sorry. What can I do to make this right? And it gets removed. So they take it down. That way it's not there anymore. That's the most effective thing I've seen. That's the only thing I'll add. But I guess one other thing I'll say is, think about all the cringeworthy responses that you've seen other people make to the reviews, and don't do that. Because whenever you find yourself cringing, that's a problem, because that might make you feel good, but it's not gonna be good to potential clients.
Yeah, it's not good for your brand. It's not good for your reputation. Just makes you look mad too.
And sometimes Jim is just angry. So
That's true. I get fired up.
Well, it's good to be passionate about what you do. So kind of switching out of the Google My Business channel for a while, there's still a lot of people out there doing traditional marketing, TV, radio, print ads, billboards. What would be sort of your elevator pitch for moving from those traditional or into digital marketing, or layering digital marketing on top? Like, why would they want to do that?
A lot of those traditional methods lack the data backing to help you make decisions, to help you say, how do I put a cost to this? How can I say that this is the thing that converted? So really being able to have that data to support your decisions. You can also be very agile with digital. Like we said, you can move it to a lot of places. You can segment audiences very specifically. If you're saying, I'm going after this target demographic, this geographic location, you can be very specific in digital, whereas you're going to be a lot broader in your traditional efforts. So I would say that those are some things to think about, but you can also amplify what traditional methods are doing with the digital campaign as well.
Yeah, I mean, I worked for a volume firm, and they did the traditional media, TV, they did billboards and all that. And the margins are really thin. I mean, you don't make much money as when it comes to digital. So, I mean, it ultimately comes down to what's your better bang for the buck. It's something that, Becky, you're just spot on about data. Like, go meet with a billboard company and ask them for data. Guess what they don't have? They don't have data. Well, there's this number of cars that drove by. Okay, well, how many phone calls do you expect that I'll get from this? Well, I can't give you that data. It's like, well, why not? It's because they don't have it, right? They don't track it well. So, but it really comes down to what's the best bang for your buck, and it's going to be digital over traditional media. Now, there is value in it. That's why there are so many TV ads, there's so many billboards. It's because there is value. It's just a different business model from what I want. I just don't want that. I don't want those razor thin margins. I want better margins is what I want.
Where are the eyeballs? Where are the eyeballs? That's what it's all about right now in 2022. It's about where are the eyeballs. And
I thought it was about where are the ears.
That too. Ears and eyes. I can make a case for both, but
yeah, you need them both.
You need to figure out where your audience is. So our leads team told me the other day that we signed up 85 cases in March, and 23 of them came from TikTok. Now, I don't think that's true, but 23 people mentioned TikTok as being part of the decision to at least reach out to us, right? So I'm looking for people who are getting married to a US citizen or want to come through the spouse visa process. So what's the marrying age? 25, 35, right? And so you don't want to spend a lot of time on LinkedIn if you're looking for, I don't know, young people, right? So I mean, whatever. You just got to make sure that you're picking the channels based on where the people are that you want to hire you.
Absolutely. And I would like to call out really quickly, if you are doing something like TV, print, radio, you could track it by having different phone numbers for those different mediums. That would require some talk with your telecommunications company or a service like CallRail or something like that.
A lot of times those require a lot bigger budgets too. So I'm, segmenting your audience, but you get into really big spends if you're like, I only want to go on these channels or this time of night or things like that. So with digital, your spend can go a lot further than it can with traditional media.
Absolutely. Was there anything else the panel wanted to add here before we jump into the Q&A section?
the only thing that we didn't really talk much about is email marketing. And I'm a big
right.
proponent of email marketing. So we send out an email. So for people that hire us, that's great. We're happy, we're glad. And the great thing about immigration is it can be a virtuous cycle. We could help someone get a work visa, then a green card, then citizenship. So if we stay in contact with them over time, the total lifetime value of that client could be, $10,000 or $15,000. So email marketing is the best way to stay in contact with people and to maintain that connection. And I think people aren't doing their email marketing correctly. I think they aren't emailing often enough. They feel like, oh, I don't want to bother people. And they also are boring. So those are the two things you don't want to do. You want to make it interesting. And I think the best thing for me, at least, are client success stories. Those are the ones that go the furthest. And you always want to have like a PS call to action at the bottom. Did you know we have a TikTok channel? Or did you see this new YouTube video that we made, or whatever? So I think that when people fall out of your funnel, that email list is a great way to communicate with them for when they're ready to buy, right? Like, so not everybody's ready just because people don't wake up in the morning and say, I want to give Tyson money. People wake up in the morning, they want their problem solved. But if they don't hire you right away, then at least with the email contact, they will remember you when they need you.
I mean, if people want to wake up and give me money, they can send me checks. It's fine. I won't object.
Venmo, right?
That's right.
With third-party data eventually going away too, email is a great way to be getting that first-party data yourself. So learn about your leads and your potential clients, and email campaigns are an essential part of that. You can also segment your email list. So what types of leads and customers do you have, and what is important to them, and making sure that your email information is specific to them. Consumers want personalized experiences, and that's across the board. So don't make your marketing and your email efforts one size fits all.
Yeah, and I think that most people think of email marketing as like, okay, it's April 6th, it's Wednesday, this is my week to send out the email newsletter, so I'm going to email that out. It doesn't have to be that. You can actually take and you can repurpose some of your old newsletters, or repurpose really anything, and you can actually schedule those out. So let's say the client signs up with you today, you can actually schedule one out for a week from now, 2 weeks from now, a month from now, like week 2, 3, 4, 5. Well, like, you can schedule these things out. So it may look new to that client, but it's not necessarily new. So it's not that you just, send something out that day. So you can schedule these things out that look like they are new, organic and all that, but they're really not. So you can really think it through. So don't think of it just from, okay, this week I've got to send out a new newsletter. You don't have to do that. You can change it up. There's plenty of different ways of automating those emails and having those out and look unique and new.
Great, thank you. We have a couple of questions here from the audience. We'll start with one from Stephen. It says, what data does anyone have for communicating with other attorneys for referrals? Is email effective, or should we be using video to reach out to them instead?
I know I don't have any specific data, but I can tell you that me having lunches with people and coffees with people is far more effective for us than it is for me to send them an email and a phone call. I was joking with someone in the guild, I don't know, a month ago, and we were talking about cases in a specific city, and I said, I bet I could fly to that city, spend a week there, and start having coffees with people and get a bunch of cases, because it's that top of mind kind of a thing. So I don't have any specific data about that, but I just happen to know it's effective.
I'm like the last person to talk to about referral marketing. I decided like 6 or 7 years ago that I was going to go completely digital. I take referrals, and I'm happy to get referrals from people, but I do a poor job of fostering those relationships. I'm sort of an introvert, and I just like to sit in my little evil office coming up with schemes.
Coming up with your next TikTok. That can come down to segmenting your email list too. So if you have a referral list and you want to send them interesting things or thought leadership pieces so that you're just top of mind with them, and then you send one and they reply back to you and, hey, I have this case to send your way. So I think try a few different things and see what lands, and look at where your current referrals are coming to and how can you make that effort more robust.
And LinkedIn would probably be the one place too where you could really focus on. There's a lot you can do in LinkedIn when you said remain top of mind, just commenting on other people's stuff, you can have great conversations on LinkedIn. I think that would be the one place. If I was trying to do more referral stuff, I would do it more in LinkedIn.
Agree.
Right. The next question is an interesting one. So someone is wondering if the importance of a not organic ranking has diminished since, we have all these kind of pay to play things taking up the top of the search engine results page. We've got your maps and you have the paid directories, and, the organic results are kind of pushed down. You have your knowledge box and all the questions. Can you guys kind of weigh in on that?
Organic is not going to go away. Google will not become a fully pay-to-play platform. And I don't know about you guys, but I scroll past all of the ads and I want to go to what the actual results are. So like Tyson mentioned, organic is a long game. That's a long-term goal to gain traction and visibility and to get good ranking there. It's not something short-term that you pour gas on and it, lights a fire for you. So it's definitely an investment and it's a long-term thing that's going to be there for you, but it's not going to go away.
And Becky mentioned earlier that you have to pay attention to what people are doing on your website. And the biggest mistake people make is they look at how their homepage is ranking, right? But I'm a big believer in long tail search and having content that's evergreen, that's content rich, that's long and detailed, so that when people type in a question on Google is a place for answering questions. That's how you find them. It's not so much about whether they come in through the homepage. It's all the other ways that they come to you.
100%. We look at blogs and the content that you're adding to your site. Google wants to see you adding content to your site on a regular basis. And each one of those pieces is like an on-ramp to your website. So people are coming to you because they're searching, divorce lawyer near me or something like that. Or what do I do after I get in a car accident? Or, those long tail keywords like Jim mentioned. So all of those are opportunities for people to get to your site. They're going to come in through something like that where they're going to learn, then they're going to poke around. And we talked about, human interest pieces. People are curious about people. They're going to go to your about page. They want to learn about you as a firm so that they can make a better decision about who they're contacting. So organic and what you're investing in your website is not going anywhere.
I think there's no doubt is diminished SEO. I was actually searching, as you all were talking, I was Googling things that you all were saying. What do I do after a car accident? Like, I have to scroll a fairly far distance to get down to anything. And actually the actual first website is allstate.com, which is kind of interesting. So there's no doubt it's diminished SEO. It has not neutralized SEO. I think SEO is still extremely important. I actually told Jim I was wrong about this, but like 5 years ago, I told SEO was dead, that Google AdWords was going to take over. And I was clearly wrong about that, right? But I will tell you, we get the majority of our cases from other sources than SEO. We get from other sources, so it has diminished it, and you can see it's got you've got the LSAs, you've got the Google AdWords, you've got the maps, all that. So it's diminished it, but it's not neutralized it.
Great. This is the last question I have in here. Can you email people you don't know, like from lists?
I would not. I think that the Canned Spam Act is still a thing. I think there's ethical problems that I would defer to an expert on ethics, but I think that that's a big no-no, both as a lawyer and as someone who has an email list, because if you get too many dings on your email list, then your provider is going to kick you out and your emails aren't going to get delivered. So that would be a bad idea.
Many platforms won't let you. Also, if you upload a list, they will block it right away. So you need to have people opt into it. Some people will try to get around it by doing, 100 people at a time or something like that. And what's the payout? These people aren't engaged in you. They have no reason to know you. So what do you think is the benefit that's going to come from it?
Yeah, because it's based on like the provider. It all comes back to the provider. It's their quality of their list is based upon their individual members, and if they've got a bunch of spammers in it, then all of their emails will start getting blocked. And then as a provider, they're a terrible provider, and everyone's going to flood away from them. So it leads back to that. Like, they want to protect their service, so they'll kick you out as quickly as they can.
They're obsessed about it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Okay, thank you for that. That brings us to the end here. I'd love to thank our panel here for coming and everyone else who attended. We will be processing this recording. Our team takes about 24 to 48 hours to do it. And once that is all complete, we will be sending it to everyone who registered here today. And then once we'll have a couple of other assets to send you guys to be determined, and maybe some TikTok links as well.
Gotta have the TikTok.
Yeah, a little bit of extra fun there. Okay, well, oh, looks like we have one more question. We'll get to it because we have 4 minutes left. Do you have any recommendations for opt-in messaging on text message campaigns?
So I just started using a platform called Easy Texting. So I do a YouTube live show where people just come on and ask me immigration questions, and I'm not really regular as to when I schedule it. So just to be able to capture people's cell phone numbers and to allow me to alert them when we're going live, we've started using Easy Texting. It's super easy to use. And then of course Filevine. I mean, that's not for the before unit, that's for the during unit. But with Just Call, which integrates with Pipedrive, that's what we use for our sales and marketing part. We can text people right out of there, and it's kept in the CRM. It's kept in Pipedrive. So that's a pretty nice tool as well.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I guess I don't quite understand the question, because I mean, for the marketing, you basically want to create lead magnets that are going to cause them to reach out to you, which then you don't need an opt-in. So yeah, I guess I don't quite understand the question, but it's not like email where you got to opt into it. So I don't have any suggestions.
Okay, if whoever asked that, if they want to type in some clarity there, we still have a little bit of time and we can address that. If your question has been answered, don't worry about it.
I'm getting my camera ready. I'm going to do a video right after this. I'm using my phone.
What kind of mount is that, or tripod? That's pretty cool.
Some donkey thing I got on Amazon.
Okay, well, it looks like we haven't gotten any further clarification. So great job answering all the questions today, panel. Thank you so much. Have a great rest of your day and enjoy some TikToks and sunshine.
Thanks, guys. This was
Thanks,
great.
everybody.